I'm hopeful that'll allow him to start putting together a team around him that I don't think is really done yet. And I'm sure there are people that maybe didn't want to come and work for a guy that may only have that job for 6 more months or a year. Now they know he's going to be there for 4 years. So I think it gives him a great opportunity to almost start with a clean slate in some ways, and to learn from his mistakes. I mean, we all make mistakes, and hopefully we all grow, and hopefully he'll grow, and he'll learn, that maybe some of the things he did the first 2 years, maybe he ought to do different. And now he's got a great chance to do them different. And as I said, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that he'll be successful. We all have a lot vested in a governor doing well in this state, and regardless of his politics. So I'm hopeful that those 2 years that I thought were pretty rough, and he made some mistakes, but that's a learning period, and he can take that learning experience and be a better governor.
You made some statements on his behalf, I guess, a couple of years ago in favor of a tax increase. Do you see getting involved in that at all, again, if he's going forward?
Well, no, I said I thought he was courageous to do it, and I think it's one of the things you got to look at. You've got to look at cuts, and I just think he's got to sit back and put together a comprehensive program. It can't be piecemeal, and I think he needs to, and I think he needs to get a staff, maybe a little more, few people and deeper than he has right now, and start putting together a plan, an overall plan. I'd be happy to support an overall plan that includes cutting, and you can have tax increases. It's probably going to have to be a long term. He's going to have to learn to say no. I mean, that's not something. I mean, he created a lot of new programs in the last 2 years. Now, I've been there. I understand part of that's political. He doesn't have to worry about that now. He's governor. He's got 4 years. And if he wants to run again, it's all going to be determined, does he solve this financial mess, I think. And now it's his mess. It's no longer Blagojevich's mess. And I think a lot of people maybe were willing to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But now whatever happens, it's on his watch. And so that's one of the reasons I think that he needs to step back before he makes any pronouncements and think out the long term. And we'll see. I hope again he has a great opportunity now, because most of us don't get to be governor and had any experience being governor. In a way, he had a chance for 2 years to be governor. Now he can take that experience, and I think if he learns from his past, I think he can be a much better governor.
Governor, you indicated that Tom Cross may be the roadblock if Mike Madigan doesn't want to put his members on a tax increase.
No, I'm not saying Tom Cross is the roadblock. I'm saying that if Mike Madigan wants Republicans, and that's an issue where a lot of members don't leave their caucus, or they don't leave it unless they have told you can vote your conscience. So I don't blame Tom Cross on this. I think it's kind of Mike Madigan's corner how he handles Tom Cross and the House Republicans. It's going to be very important if he wants their involvement in trying to deal with this budget problem.
But you seem to be saying we need, at least as part of the package, a tax increase, so you're saying there probably need to be some Republican votes on it.
Well, that's my sense. They lost, the Democrats did lose some seats, so they're going to have probably fewer seats or members that maybe they can get on. They're going to have the bulk. I'm not sure, though, Madigan's attitude, and I understand that he's going to want to pass it with just Democratic votes. I mean, you'd have to get almost every Democrat.
So are you going to encourage some Republican members to vote?
I'm not going to encourage anybody. I'm going to encourage Democrats and Republicans to sit down and try to get along. That's what I want to see happen. I think if that happens, then I'm much more optimistic that they'll figure out some compromise. I've always thought that if you get the two parties to sit down and reach a consensus or a compromise, that's a far better solution than one party trying to ram it through.
How does that happen given the Rank Corps, though? They ran these billboards in the...
Well, when I first came down here, there's an old saying, don't take it personal, it's all business. And we've got to get back to where it's business, it's not personal. And, when I was governor, I don't think the 4 legislative leaders necessarily thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, but in the end, after we fought out for a while, we all knew we had to sit down and compromise. And some way we've got to get that needs to come back in Springfield, where everybody knows that, all right, we don't agree, and, we don't maybe like the other guy, but we're here to solve problems. We're here to get the job done, and that's what they're going to have to concentrate on, not on personalities.
Do you think that the fact that Quinn was elected gives him the necessary leverage to pass the tax hike?
I think the fact that he was elected and he was in favor of an income tax increase makes it a lot easier for members to vote for a tax increase and not think it's going to defeat them in the next election. And they can also rationalize there was a referendum, as they did back when I got elected and we had to make the temporary permanent. A lot of guys rationalized, well, that was a referendum on this issue. But I don't think it's a guarantee, and I think it would be a mistake if that's all he does on this budget. I mean, it would take a lot more than just a tax increase to solve this budget problem, and I think that's probably going to be part of it. But it's not even, I don't think, the major part of it. I think you got to get spending under control, and you got to make some changes, and probably you're going to have to cut back on some programs, and you're going to have to stop creating new programs for a while, because we're not going to be able to tax our way out of this problem. Because if that's all we do, then we're going to be right back in this problem in a year or two. It's not going to get solved just with a tax increase.
You spoke about mistakes that Quinn made in his first round. What, if you're talking to him, what would you say? Top 3 mistakes. What did he really do wrong?
Let me tell you what I think he needs to do. And I won't. The most important thing is still he needs to put a team around him of his people, competent people. And I'm not talking 4 or 5. I'm talking 40 or 50 people.
Is it now the issue that there's not enough, or that the ones that are there aren't good enough?
Well, I'm not sure he ever put his team. He had a lot of holdovers, and I'm not sure that was a very good group of people to have, and so he also needs to look at a broad, comprehensive way to get us out of this budget mess. You can't just say I'm going to do a tax increase, I'm going to do that. You've got to put it all together in a package. Then you got to stick with it. So the other thing he needs to, before he makes any pronouncements, think long and hard, and maybe check around and just kind of know how people are going to react. Because sometimes I think he would say things and people would react and he'd be surprised and he'd change. You don't want to keep changing your position. So staff, you need to have a comprehensive program and you need to stick with it. You need to not necessarily be stubborn, but you got to know, everybody needs to know that you're committed to this. You're not going to change your mind in 2 days, and you might have to, everybody have to wait a month or two until you finally understand that's what the governor means to do. But again, he has now that luxury of experience that most people coming to the governor's office don't have. And so I just hope he'll, try to sit back and what can I learn from what I've been through the last 2 years. And maybe I did make a mistake here or there. That's a hard thing for any politician to ever say I might have made a mistake. And I'm not saying he ought to say it publicly, but he ought to just sit back, and he made a few. We all make a few.
Governor, what's your reaction to the Republicans picking up 4 congressional seats and to the Tea Party movement in Illinois?
Well, I don't think the Tea Party movement in Illinois was as much of a factor as it was in some other states. The Tea Party impact seems to be pretty much in the primaries. I don't think there is much of a factor in a general election. In fact, in some cases, some of the people they got nominated turned out not to be as good in other states in the general election. But I think the Republicans, the 4 candidates that won, 3 of those are basically Republican districts that we probably should have never lost. The one exception might be the Quad City district, but with the change in politics downstate and becoming more Republican, I think that district probably should have changed even before now. But those other 3 suburban districts should have never gone Democrat to start with. So that's, I think, part. I don't think it was so much a revolt as it was, people just, this year was the Republican year, and those are Republican districts. The one that was interesting was not the one we picked up, but the one we held, and that was Mark Kirk's old district where Bob Dole won. And that district is a Democratic district. That's probably the most Democratic district of all those by far, more so than even the Quad City. And the fact we held on to that, I thought, again, underscored this was a Republican year in Illinois, because that district, now, if Bob Dole had been an incumbent, you could kind of explain it for that, but he was a new face running against somebody who had run 3 times and come very close to Mark Kirk on a couple of those times he'd run before. So that underscored to me this was a Republican year, because that's a Democratic district. As I said, the other suburban ones, I think they should have been Republican, and this year we got them back. I think most people feel that we had we had good candidates. Now, I think the Melissa Beam was a surprise, but it's not a surprise if you look at that district. That's a very Republican district. Just that, I think they were surprised this guy who nobody really knew much about, and she had done a pretty good job of ingratiating herself to the business community that she was able to. They thought she'd hold on. But again, it was such a Republican year, I think. So the Tea Party, I don't have next time if they're still around and they're an independent factor, maybe they might have more of an impact in a primary, but it didn't seem to me they had much of an impact in this primary in Illinois like in other states.
Do you have any reaction to the State Board of Elections holding up certification of Mark Kirk until November 23 when the U.S. Senate's coming in on the lame duck section on the 15th of November?
What's the reason?
They scheduled their meeting on the 23rd. I really don't know the reason why.
That's too bad. I mean, that we should get that. We should get an elected senator in there as soon as we could. Yeah, I don't know if the Senate's going to do anything in those few days anyway. They might, maybe.
The remap will be looming over budget negotiations. How do you see it playing in as a factor? Do you think that it'll be used as a bargaining chip at all, or do you think it's a foregone conclusion that the Democrats are just going to draw?
Well, the Democrats are going to draw the map the way they want to. Now, the question is, will they tell some Republicans, if you vote with us on some of these things, we might take care of your district? That's the unknown out there. One thing you got to remember, to make a map very Democratic, that means you got to put all those Republican votes in a Republican district. So there could be some Republicans who could come out with a real good district, too good, and that's why you can't elect Republicans in other districts. But who knows what might happen? But it's going to be a Democratic map. If they'd had a one-vote margin, it'd have been a Democrat. I mean, that is the most basic thing in the legislature. That's all that's what they care about the most. That's why those Democrat legislators are out trying to help Pat Quinn win. One, because they love Pat Quinn. They wanted a Democratic governor to sign their map.
But is Quinn kind of a wild card, though, in that sense, in that he's been asking for this tax increase and Madigan won't give it to him? Does he use that as leverage with the Speaker?
Now, I've been surprised before, but I would be shocked if he would veto a Democratic-passed redistricting map.
But might deciding who's going to be in those strong Republican districts be a way to maybe break Cross's hold on his caucus right now?
That's a possibility. I'm not sure it'll work, but that might be a possibility that might be tried. But I mean, that again. You asked me, will there be any Republicans have any? That might be the only way they're going to have any input. If for some reason the Democrats come and say, well, we can work on your district, but you got to vote on this. I have never actually seen that happen because I've never been in a situation in all my years. I've been involved and watched this where one party had control in the legislature on the redistricting. There's always been a split in Illinois government. Now, if it goes to the commission, it's after the legislative session. Now, I do know in the past, I know of Republicans, this is years ago, who talked with people in control of the redistricting and the Democrats to try to get things done. But it's never happened during a legislative session because I said we've always had split government. So this is a first time. But that is a possibility. That's how I doubt it. Out of the kindness of their hearts, they're going to call up a Republican and say, hey, we want to draw the district so you're happy. They might say that and say, oh, by the way, we have a bill we'd sure like your support on.
Hi, I'm Terry Martin with the Illinois Channel here at Giant City State Park in deep southern Illinois. This part of Illinois is much different from what we're used to. It's really part of the Ozark landscapes. We're going to first talk with Park Superintendent Bob Martin, and then we'll see how the beauty of this landscape is captured through the eyes of photographer Ed Martin. We'll be right back.
Welcome as the Illinois Channel travels about Illinois. Join us as we uncover our natural treasures, the abundance of recreational opportunities, our world-class museums, and discovering our state's historical legacies. Join us as we travel and learn about Illinois.
Giant City is a state park. We have 4,055 acres in the park. We have a variety of activities in the park, from camping to hunting to fishing, matter of fact. Giant City also was mainly developed back in the 30s by the CCC. We have a historic lodge with a restaurant here also with 34 cabins. One cabin has 2 double beds in it. Another cabin has like a queen-size bed with a pull-out bed there, a little living room like. The third type of cabin has a fireplace with 2 double queen-size beds in a bedroom with a wet bar also. There's a swimming pool up at the lodge that they can, go up and swim during the summer if they like, or if they just want to go in, in the lobby of the lodge. There's a lot of exhibits in there. Also the restaurant. We have a lot of folks from Kentucky come up. We have a lot of folks from Missouri come over, like to camp. Matter of fact, both of them. We get Indiana. We get a lot of folks from Wisconsin, Minnesota. Just all over the United States, basically. And every now and then we'll get some international folks, too.
But the major attraction at Giant City is the landscape and the rock formations that give the park its own identity.
They're huge rock formations. I don't know, they average anywhere from probably 60 to 70 feet high. And it's like a corridor you walk down, where you walk down it, then you turn right, then you turn back to the left. And it's a real unique, rock formation here for the park, and it's probably, our most used trail here in the park that we have.
The uniqueness of Giant City State Park, along with the natural beauty of the Shawnee National Forest, is what attracts photographer Ed Martin to try to capture its essence.
Well, my interest in photography is, well, threefold, I guess. One, of course, I'm trying to document the landscape, but I'm more interested in taking like portraits of places so that they take on a character maybe that is the embodiment, or if you would, the soul of the place. The lighting here is very unique because it reflects off of some of the rocks, and the moss, and the texture is just unbelievable. I don't think that most people in metropolitan areas even understand that these places exist, that some of the more beautiful geography in North America exists in these human-scale landscapes that are the Shawnee National Forest and in the Missouri and Arkansas Ozarks. It's just remarkable. Most people don't realize that the Ozarks extend into southern Illinois and across the state down here. There's so many surprises when you investigate, like Bell Smith Spring is just phenomenal, and the so-called Garden of the Gods area with those pinnacles that overlook the landscape and the bluff below. It's just unbelievable. There's so much to behold in Illinois that isn't normally what you would think of sometimes. What we see here today is something much more rugged and definitive. It's very prehistoric. It makes you think you're in another time and from another time. And to be able to capture that and give it some character and some soul and some feeling is something that I strive to do. It's something that needs to be done, I think, because we lose so much of that in our life today. A lot of times when I'm out shooting, it's a tremendous time to meditate, and to meditate upon nature and on the essence of what it is. And there's a certain spirituality to be had in being alone in such a vastness, and to comprehend or begin to comprehend the environment as it is a living entity. That all goes into being a landscape photographer. And so many times you come across an environment that brings about a certain emotion or feeling, and to be able to capture that or try to capture that to show other people is what's so special. To to be able to take something and hold it in a moment. Because like here, it is so prehistoric. And while it's been here maybe billions of years, to just capture that one moment and then share that with those people who have never experienced that is a real gift, I think.
Hello, this is Philip Jewell for Blue Hat TV. A trip to Chicago is incomplete without a visit to the Art Institute of Chicago and the adjacent public parks. The museum's north garden was designed as a sculpture court by landscape artist Laurie Olin. It includes this 1975 work from Alexander Calder's Flying Dragon series. From North Garden, you get an excellent view of Chicago's varied architecture. This 16.5-foot Henry Moore bronze was donated to the Art Institute by the artist in 1983. Head to the south end of Grant Park and walk through an impressive installation of 106 cast iron figures, each 9 feet tall. The Field Museum opened at its present location on South Lakeshore Drive in 1921. Back at the north end of Grant Park is a work by minimalist Richard Serra, an artwork just wide enough to admit one person at a time. Here, the Art Institute has recreated the original entrance to the old Chicago Stock Exchange designed by Louis Sullivan. The BP Bridge is 925 feet long. Its stainless steel panels complement the design of the Pritzker Pavilion in Millennium Park. The bridge and the pavilion were both designed by world-famous architect Frank Gehry. The Millennium Monument is a replica of the original peristyle designed by Edward Bennett that stood in the same location in Wrigley Square until 1953. The South Boeing Gallery in Millennium Park currently features contemporary sculptures from 4 Chinese artists. Cloudgate, the centerpiece of Millennium Park, was inspired by liquid mercury. The sculpture consists of 168 stainless steel plates welded together on a steel frame and weighs close to 100 tons. Edward Kemmy's bronze lions guard the Art Institute of Chicago and are possibly the most recognized sculptures in the city. On our next program, we will visit with artist Nancy Johnson in Marietta, Georgia. Thank you for watching Blue Hat TV.